Yes, and hello once again. I'm Max Ratt, and welcome to the Max Ratt Deconstruction Zone. Okay, so today is August 1st, 2013. Got another show for you today. The title of this show, the topic of the show is going to be called Detroit, the Deliberate, Diabolical Destruction and DeIndustrialization of America. Obviously, I'll get into that as we go through the show. Welcome aboard. Thanks for listening. And let's just get, my last show was about Egypt. I'll make a quick note about that. That the military took over. Took over their government without elections, of course, and they're back to now. They're talking about squashing protests and things like that. Whether or not you agree with the Muslim Brotherhood, quote, Muslim Brotherhood Morsi government anyway. The point is that they're already discussing squashing their protests and telling them, no more protests for you. Okay, and on that note, let's go into this show. We're talking about Detroit. I think it's a very significant and rather sad reality that we face in America here today. And on that note, let's let the show do the talking. Welcome aboard. Thanks for coming aboard the Max Ratt Deconstruction Zone. Here we go.
I love your show. It's so timeless.
Yeah, it does run a little long sometimes.
Marvin?
Although the newspaper clearly indicated that this photograph came from an anonymous source and that quite possibly it might be a fake, the great majority of the people will only look at the photograph and not read the text.
An unfortunate failing of the masses, sir.
The time has come for America to hear the truth.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method. Unhappily, the danger it poses.
I would just interject for one moment. That was just JFK telling you about what the world government conspiracy, vast conspiracy, in his own words, and that's Dwight D. Eisenhower. I just want to interject that the words insidious, not insidious. Insidious is a subtle, evil progression, and he's saying it's insidious in method. Let me just replay that one, and we'll keep it going from there. Didn't want to detract from Eisenhower's speech, but it's not insidious, it's insidious. Here we go.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method. Unhappily, the danger it poses promises to be of indefinite duration. To meet it successfully, there is call for not so much the emotional and transitory sacrifices of crisis, but rather those which enable us to carry forward steadily, surely, and without complaint, the burdens of a prolonged and complex struggle with liberty, the stake. Only thus shall we remain, despite every provocation, on our charted course toward permanent peace and human betterment.
Yeah, so Eisenhower's calling it a long and complex struggle with liberty at stake. That says it all right there, and those are two former presidents of the United States. I would argue maybe the last real presidents of the United States, other than appointed puppets of the global banking cabal takeover, if you will. Eisenhower and JFK both clearly warning the American people of this reality, and this reality is right there in our faces as we speak, as we go. And let's go with the show.
But I don't want the boy thinking the world is a dishonest place.
But sometimes it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand with me and raise your glasses as I propose a toast. To Her Majesty, the Queen, to the vitality of the special relationship between our peoples, and, in the words of Shakespeare, to this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, to the Queen.
All right, that's the President of the United States, Barack Obama, praising Her Majesty, the monarch, the ruling royal inherent monarch of England, and she'll tell you that she's not only the monarch of England, but she's got 53 different countries in her Commonwealth, which is considering there's on record only 196 countries in the world. That's more than 1/4 of every country on Earth, and that's our puppet president praising Her Majesty. You've heard that in my show before. Let's keep it moving now. We're talking about Detroit.
Everything's falling apart. And it all starts right here in Detroit. The headwaters of a river of failure.
This town is in the worst financial meltdown we've ever seen. No longer can we cook the books and fudge the numbers.
From Motown to Lesstown in 50 years, and you got to blame the Democrats.
Detroit, Michigan used to be really a symbol of industrial strength and manufacturing in this country. But thanks to a lot of Republican policies, the city is now filing for bankruptcy.
All right, so as you can see, the mainstream media is already blame the Democrats, blame the Republicans, and that's to bounce you around like a moron, while the course is still on course, and the manipulators and the power grabbers are still on course to do what they want, and they're going to bounce you around like a moron. On Fox, they're going to say, oh, it's a Democrats' fault. On NBC, they're going to tell you it's a Republicans' fault. Let's keep it going with another NBC, and it's the Republicans are abolishing democracy. But the bottom line is they're both doing the same thing, and that's what we're going to go into. That's what I'm going to show to you as we go. Again, talking about Detroit on the Max Ratt Deconstruction Zone. Let's keep it going.
Michigan Republicans have been abolishing democracy at the local level, overriding local election results to get rid of your locally elected officials, and instead having your town run by fiat without voting by an emergency manager installed by the government.
Well, modern liberalism, that's the yield of it.
That there's more to a liberal democracy or a liberal society than simply having an election.
Okay, so as you can see, there is nothing to do with Republicans and Democrats here. They're both abolishing democracy and appointing an unelected technocrat, just like we've seen in many other countries around the world. They just put in in Egypt, they just put in a guy named Bedlawi, who was a banking representative, who was a unelected technocrat. You have that in Egypt, in Greece with Papademos, another unelected technocrat. You have that in Italy with this guy Mario Monti, another unelected banking technocrat. And now we have it here in Detroit, in America, with the same thing. Keep it going.
And you've heard the president hint at this. Elections are not enough for a democracy.
Keep it going.
And there's also this obsession with democracy, with process. Now, democracy is important. But there are times when democracy is not the most important thing. And there's also this obsession with democracy, with process. Now, democracy is important. But there are times when democracy is not the most important thing.
The premise of the emergency manager law is that democracy is part of the problem. In order to fix a city or a school district, you first have to take away people's ability to vote for what they want and who they want representing them. The democracy thing is a problem, and it needs to be got around in order to fix things. So say Republicans in Michigan.
Again, it's not just Republicans, folks, okay? And that's what the the mainstream media will try to get you to think that it is, but it's not. It's both sides, okay? And here's here you go.
The problem is elections in today's world confer a kind of unique and almost unsubstitutable legitimacy.
All right, so you get people from every side. That's Fareed Zakaria, the jerk-off Fareed Zakaria from CNN. It's both sides. Okay, they're doing the same thing. And now here's Richard Haas, the head of the CFR, which needs to say he's going to tell you about. We don't need elections. You know, we need appointed technocrats. We don't need elections. Okay.
We should avoid, if you will, being quote unquote so principled that if we see setbacks to democracy, that our relationship, we toss it over the edge.
Right, we should, don't worry about, so what if there's no elections? That's just a setback to do. Let's not be so principled. And now here's Hillary Clinton, okay, who's admitting, who's telling you that the CFR tells her what to do, okay? And Richard Haas is the president of the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations. That's a Rockefeller, founded think tank that is basically setting policy for the entire U.S. government and in fact for world government in general. Here's Hillary, and if here's Hillary in her own words herself telling you.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, the mothership in New York City. But it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
Okay, and just for the record, Fareed Zakaria is in the member of the CFR. I believe Rachel Maddow is as well. This guy Chuck Todd, who told you about we don't need elections, I believe he's also a member of the CFR. They are all and this goes across any party line. Okay, you got Republicans, you got Democrats. They're all part of the same cabal, and that's kind of obvious. But I'm going to prove that to you anyway as we go. Here we go.
The fact is, the Dems ran that into the ground.
Yes, they did.
Sucked it dry.
Okay, and that's Fox again. Dennis Miller, idiot Dennis Miller, blaming it on the Democrats.
This left-right paradigm is it's a political ploy. It works very well for those who know what they're doing. We find that the Republican Party and the Democrat Party both are pretty much in the hands of a relatively small group of people with a membership of about 4,000. It's called the Council on Foreign Relations. These are the people that are really pulling the strings in both the Republican and the Democrat Party.
For 15 years, beginning in 1970, he was also the chairman of the Council of Foreign Relations. He is the past president of Harvard College's Board of Overseers and a life trustee of the University of Chicago, founded by his grandfather.
That was a guy talking about David Rockefeller, who was the head of the CFR for 15 years. He founded the CFR, and he was also head of the Harvard College board of rulers, and his grandfather John D. himself founded University of Chicago, all part of the same ruling cabal that is manipulating both sides of the stupid left-right paradigm, which people love to be caught up in.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
All right, so she won't have far to go to be told what she should be doing, okay? And that's, she's being told what to do by an unelected Rockefeller think tank. There you go. Isn't that interesting?
You're not dealing with morons here.
No, but then we're going to go back. Then we're going to go, oh no, it's the liberals, it's the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it's the conservatives, and that's all orchestrated by these groups because they think you're a bunch of morons.
Republicans are thrilled that Detroit has filed for bankruptcy.
That's because for the GOP, the fall of Detroit is a talking point gold mine.
Oh, yes. It's the Republicans just love it. No. Okay, yeah.
The Dems ran it into the ground.
Yeah, it was the Republicans, it was the Democrats.
But remember, the Republican solution for Detroit is just more of the same. Gutting social services, punishing workers, and selling off the commons to the highest bidder.
That's both. Again, that's the CFR is appointing the unelected technocrat Kevin Orr, who is supposedly in charge of the budget and the finances of Detroit now. That's he's neither Republican or Democrat. Okay.
How do you let people think that they're directing their own political destiny when at the same time we, the elite, we are the ones who must direct their political destiny without them knowing it? How do you do that? And he answers the question brilliantly. He said, it's very simple. You've got to have two major political parties, and they'll both have the same major goals, the same basic fundamental principles, and they'll argue with each other on the surface with slogans and leadership and style and all of that sort of thing. He said, but we will control them both. There's the strategy. There's the whole scam behind this left-right paradigm.
There you go, and that was G. Edgar Griffin talking about the book Tragedy and Hope by Carroll Quigley, and where he outright just tells you straight up that we're going to control both sides, left-right paradigm. We'll get the people fighting with each other about that and proceed forward. That's all admitted, and that's all right there in your face. But again, you can make, no, I'm a Democrat, I'm left-wing, I'm right-wing. All like just for morons, okay? That's for morons.
You're not dealing with morons here.
Oh, no. And here's your boy Glenn Beck.
This is not a Republican or conservative failure. This isn't even a Democratic failure or idea. This is a progressive / socialist / communist utopia.
Okay, and there's Glenn Beck confusing. It's not Democrat, Republican. It's communist and socialist. Okay, again, just to try to bounce you around with labels and things like that. Okay, so now here's Jeff Immelt, who arguably would be a Democrat. I guess he's in Obama's cabinet as the jobs czar, if you will. And listen to what he says on Charlie Rose about the communist Chinese government. This is very disturbing, to say the least. And that's Jeff Immelt, the guy who's he's in Obama's cabinet, and he's the CEO of General Electric, which is one of the largest military contractors in the world, and they're running energy plants, and of course they're one of the and Rockefellers are one of the largest shareholders in that company for sure.
State-run communism may not be your cup of tea, but their government works, and they get things done.
Oh yeah, and Charlie Rose like, yeah, they get things done with a communist dictatorship, and so and Jeff Immelt's like, yeah, you got to admit that totalitarian dictatorship gets things done. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, Jeff.
I think what you're seeing in Detroit is the result of horrendous trade policies that have gone on for decades, which have resulted in the shutdowns of tens of thousands of factories in America. Detroit used to be the automobile leader of not only our country but of the world. And yet now Germany produces twice the automobiles that we do. DeIndustrialization in America has a lot to do with Detroit's economic situation.
Okay, and I will argue in this show clearly that this deindustrialization is deliberate. Okay, the people who these world government criminals, okay, who want to bring us all into a world totalitarian dictatorship, run by them, okay, and run by the Queen of England and the Rockefeller foundations and all their buddies and cronies. This deindustrialization, the reason that they need to destroy the American economy is because we were rolling along with freedom and liberty, and we that's what made us so successful and so rich. Okay, that in order to get us back and to get us down to par with the rest of the world, they needed to destroy and destroy the American economy, make the Americans desperate and reliant on government, so we can be brought into this criminal world totalitarian dictatorship with a bunch of unelected technocrats running the show for everything, and that's so this is a deliberate deindustrialization. It's not an accident, okay, folks. It's not something, oh no, it's because the Democrats took over the government in Detroit. There's absolutely nothing to do with it. That's what they'll tell you on the mainstream media is the reason, because they are trying to distract you from the real reason, because they don't want you to have your guard up for this totalitarian takeover that we're experiencing. And I'm going to make that case for you in this show as we go. Let's keep it rolling.
I had figured out the only way they can bring America to its knees is by free trade, globalization, offshoring, and outsourcing. And that cost us 11.7 million jobs in the last 11 years. And then finally people in the last 5 or so years are waking up to the fact that we are being deliberately deindustrialized.
We're being deliberately deindustrialized. Keep going.
See, after the plant left, the neighborhood left. He just eventually just went kaput.
It wasn't unions or black people who bankrupted Detroit. It was decades of pro-corporate, anti-middle class, so-called free trade policies that gutted that city of its industrial core.
Right, that's called deliberate deindustrialization. Keep going.
In effect, the United States has destroyed much of its manufacturing sector, and with that, unions, the tax bases of cities and states, and have left Americans without the incomes to support their debt levels.
They built a new plant in Mexico and took all the work to Mexico.
I never in a million years thought it could lead to this, I swear to you, man. You should have told us the truth. Yeah. The truth. You don't want the truth. You know what you want to hear? You want to hear that Americans do things better than anybody else.
It's the hope for tomorrow.
See, here's the deal on that. You're in America now, you know, and the thing is, Americans really like to feel special.
Our business is still cars.
Untrue. You want to know what business we are in, grandfather? Because it's time you took a look. Appliances from Hong Kong, net worth $60 million. Sporting goods from the Philippines, a profit of $3.6 million. South Korea, menswear, soft tissue profit under $1 million. Mobile homes, land development. We're building a resort in Mexico to take advantage of the devaluation. That's our business. 8 times as much as when my father died, and 12 times as much as when you retired and I took over. And the automobile division is the only one showing a loss. Which is why by the end of next year, we intend to eliminate it altogether.
There you go. That was from a movie called The Betsy, which was with Robert Duvall. Laurence Olivier was, you heard his voice in there. It's about old-fashioned car industry people, and they were already in 1978 when that movie came out. They were already leading you towards, the car industry isn't making any money anymore. We're going to eliminate that, and that was the obviously part of the beginning. Well, even though Detroit's been deindustrialized over the past 50 years, that was at least 30. That was about 30 years ago where they were doing the same thing. Keep it going.
The Commonwealth is a family of 53 nations, all with a common bond, shared beliefs, mutual values and goals.
When I made the decision to rescue the auto industry, it wasn't popular.
Okay, yeah, he made the decision. Keep it going. Yeah, Mr. Puppet over there made the decision. It wasn't popular. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I don't know. I just put that in there.
What am I, a schmuck on wheels?
Exactly.
The Cadillac assembly plant. From there all the way down. And on this side over here too. One big plant. Right there. It should be the Cadillac Assembly Plant. Now, it's a place where they park dumpsters. Now this plant was huge. All of this was the plant.
Right, and that was from a movie called a quasi documentary called Detropia, and first of all, when I was watching the movie, right in the beginning, they say that it was funded by the producers of the movie were funded by the Ford Foundation. So right away, you know. What their angle is going to be. It's going to be more propaganda towards the demise of the American deindustrialization of America, and so they use a guy who's actually a likable character, but he's got a very if you will, African American style to him, which is going to divide people even further. As you could see, and because they're going to try to make it like, well, you know, like, and so get people who have that racist undertone or whatever you want to call it are going to be like, oh, you see, so I see the car industry went under because we had too many black people working in it, not because it's been intentionally deindustrialized by world government criminals. Okay, so that's the take. That's what they're trying to subliminally or consciously steer you towards.
The Cadillac Assembly Plant. From there all the way down. And on this side over here too. One big plant. Right there. It should be the Cadillac Assembly Plant. Now, it's a place where they park dumpsters. Now this plant was huge. All of this was the plant.
The rise of industry and the demise of industry as we know it. I think a lot of other cities will follow suit.
Hey, if it moves, you can bet on it.
What about the Detroit Lions?
Nah, lay off Detroit. Them people is living in Mad Max times.
It used to be an economic powerhouse. People sang songs about it.
It's the land where golden chariots are molded out of dreams. It's Detroit.
That clip was from a movie, a Disney movie called The Happiest Millionaire, I believe the name of it was. Anyway, again, believe me, and you don't have to believe me, Detroit, anything Disney is pure, unadulterated propaganda, and that was part of it. The Happiest Millionaire, keep it rolling.
Western corporations, led by the Americans, discovered that they could greatly increase their profits by discharging their domestic workforce and moving their facilities to China or India and producing there the goods and services that they market at home. So this destroyed careers, jobs, consumer income, tax base, and in effect shifted a large amount of United States gross domestic product to China and to India. And we have seen the rapid development of these economies primarily because of this shift. So today in the United States, there are essentially no middle-class jobs for new entrants into the workforce. University graduates who used to be employed as software engineers, as researchers, designers, in IT, and a variety of professional tradable skills, find that these jobs have either been offshored or are being filled by foreigners brought in on H-1B work visas at 1/3 of the going salary. And so they simply cannot find employment. They have massive student loan debts. and no jobs. And there have been no substitute jobs created to take the place of those lost.
So that we're now largely a nation of unemployed, part-time, temporary, and low-wage jobs.
America really needs jobs and innovation. General Motors, which got bailed out by taxpayers, don't forget, says it's moving its electric car business to China.
In the future, its global platforms for electric vehicles, most of that research and development is going to be taking place in Shanghai.
I love old factories. You get the sense that so much work was done here. We don't work like that anymore. Let the Asians do the work, we say.
Joking around about it on another popular television show, American Dad. Keep it going.
And their standard of living is lower than ours.
Yes, they are.
So shall we lower our standard of living?
We're going to have to in order to compete.
There you go. There's some more propaganda saying, well, we're going to have to lower our standard of living in order to compete with the Chinese and the Indians and the other massive workforces that we've outsourced and deindustrialized our country. But those jobs aren't coming back here for a number of reasons. Let's keep it rolling.
Hey, what the hell are you doing in my house?
Your house? This is my house. My wife and I bought it from the bank.
But I still got another day to pay back the loan.
The bank said it wouldn't matter because you're a fat deadbeat loser.
There you go.
They're shutting down futures, basically.
My government will ensure the security, good governance, and development of the overseas territories.
Mom, Dad, why do we have a bigger house than everybody else in South Park?
Well, because we have more money, son.
I know, but why?
Well, because we went to graduate school and therefore have more lucrative jobs than most people in town. For instance, your mother is a chemist for a pharmaceutical company, whereas your friend Eric Cartman's mother is a crack whore. One pays more than the other.
Keep it going.
Jimmy Hoffa was last seen dining with mobsters in 1975, and the FBI continues its latest search this morning for the former Teamsters boss. Agents brought digging equipment to a field near Detroit yesterday. A manuscript from a reputed mobster claims Hoffa was bound and gagged, hit with a shovel, and buried alive under a cement slab. Well, authorities found a slab during Monday's dig. So far, there is no evidence of Hoffa's remains, but digging resumes today. Seems like there's always a new dig for Hoffa.
The story continues.
Okay, and so now this whole Hoffa thing, Hoffa symbolizes the unions of America, the labor unions of America, and so for him to be buried and killed or buried and bound and gagged is a subliminal or a suggestion subliminal suggestion to say that the labor unions and the workers of America have been bound, gagged, and buried. And in Detroit, of course, and that's the significance there. And they're saying he was buried in Detroit, even though in the old days they used to say he was buried underneath the Meadowlands sports complex. That's his whole. This whole Hoffa thing is just a. Now, do I know what really happened to Hoffa? No, but he's his symbol. Now this is being used as a symbol of the destruction of the labor force in America, and there you go. That's all propaganda.
Another social illusion, social engineering project to change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people of the world, and especially the United States, to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government.
There you go.
This case is so monumental. It sets precedent for the country. If you start with the Motor City, who helped build this country, and you take the hard-working blue-collar workers' pensions, then yes, it can spread across the country.
That's the plan.
What they're doing in Detroit, they're going to do the same thing to private pension funds. When it comes down to the hedge funds and the shadow banking system and the investment banks, when they run into trouble, which they're going to because they can't cover their total debt, they're going to take it out of your 401k. I don't care if it's a well-managed fund or not. This is the precedent. that's being set, that they can take it away from anybody.
Okay, now we're going to go into a segment about how the financial techniques or ways they're able to destroy the economies of cities and eventually of states and eventually of countries and nations. It's being used in the same template all over the world. Okay, whether it's Egypt, whether it's Greece, whether it's Italy, whether it's Spain, whether it's Ireland, you name it. Okay, Argentina and South America, Bolivia, if you will. They're all these are financial techniques used with bonds and muni bond sale and loans and debt. So this segment's going to explain how that goes down, and if you can't see the pattern here, then you're blind, because this is going on everywhere, and you'll see how it's specifically laid out here. Here we go.
One reason why Detroit has to go bankrupt is because Goldman and J.P. Morgan have dumped hundreds of billions of dollars worth of toxic securities that they've been trading into the pension accounts of the people of Detroit. Then they're instead of saying we have to write down those assets because we committed fraud, instead they're going to put that entire city into receivership and hope nobody ever digs into the pension accounts and say, wait a minute, J.P. Morgan committed fraud, Goldman Sachs committed fraud, Morgan Stanley committed fraud.
It was Wall Street fraud through these interest rate swaps, this deliberate fraud to bury Detroit under more unrepayable debt, which is the Greece and the Cyprus model, and that is the murder of Detroit.
The Greece and the Cyprus model of Wall Street fraud, which is the way that they're taking down cities, states, and countries. Keep it going, and he heard the mention of interest rate swaps, which I did a whole show on. You can check my website at maxratt.com for my interest rate swap show, where I warned and I tried to show other people warning of how this is going to blow up eventually. And here you go in Detroit with interest rate swaps. That's how they blew out their economy, and now they're going to tell people, oh, we can't pay your pension any longer. Okay, that's going on. In other ways, if you check my Jerry Sandusky Penn State show, you'll see that was going on with them, with the pensions of the state workers and the teachers at Penn State and things like that. So let's just keep it going. They took down Detroit with interest rate swaps. I'm going to show you how that works now.
Everyone needs to understand Detroit is the case study, and the Wall Street banks are going to gut this country. They're going to get the pensions. They're going to get it all, just like George Carlin said.
They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street.
Shut up, slave!
There you go. Let's keep it rolling. This is about stealing. This is a technique being used all over. They stole people's pensions in Greece. They stole them they stole people's savings in Cyprus. Let's keep it rolling. This is how it works. Okay, and they do it by appointing an unelected technocrat.
Marge, we're not going to have to worry about money ever again, because I've got a plan. I'd like to declare bankruptcy, please.
Mr. Simpson, do you understand how bankruptcy works?
Yes, I do. Under Chapter 13 of the Fiscal Code, an individual whose debts exceed his assets may file for bankruptcy, thus protecting said assets.
That was the old bankruptcy law.
Huh?
Under the new law, you have to pay your creditors everything.
But I thought bankruptcy was the cool law. The one that says, dude, don't worry about it. I got this.
Mr. Simpson, I'm afraid this court must appoint a financial officer to supervise repayment of your debts.
There you go. That's the new bankruptcy is appointing a financial officer to supervise the payment of bad loans that went bad. In the old days, the lender might have to take the hit because they made a bad loan. But now, the borrower who goes bankrupt is still going to be chased around for the rest of their goddamn life, which is and filing bankruptcy is not an option, or if it is an option, it's not. You are not exonerated of your debt, and the lender does not have to take the loss. So in other words, if you made a bad loan, you're going to be protected for that, which is exactly how banks change the laws to work in their favor, so they could bring about this power grab. Keep it going.
As Kevin Orr maneuvers to pay city pensioners merely pennies on the dollar, he has worked out a separate deal with the city's biggest creditors, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, Union Bank of Scotland, and others, promising to pay them 75 to 80 cents on the dollar for interest rate swaps and other derivatives deals which Detroit had been lured into purchasing in a desperate attempt to raise revenue over recent years. These debtor-in-possession loan deals take precedence for repayment above all other creditors in bankruptcy proceedings. Such an agreement with the very banks responsible for Detroit's bankruptcy, to sacrifice the unsecured creditors among the pensioners and city workers for the sake of fulfilling the city's obligations to the banks, is the mirror image of the bail-in policy which the EU financial dictatorship forced down the throats of the people of Cyprus.
And Greece and Spain and what have you. And then this has been going on for a long time, and basically the banking lobby has manipulated and changed the laws so to facilitate these type of things. Well, you know what? Now the the lenders get paid before the pensioners get paid. So you have to, so they take the money, bail in, so to speak. They're taking the money from the people who had never and from by an unelected technocratic administrator who was never elected, so the people had no choice in the matter anyway, but now they're going to have to give up their pensions because somebody else who was bribed and paid off entered into financial agreements which they never understood and never were intended to understand about interest rate swaps that are now protected over the pensions and livelihoods and savings and wealth of the people who had no say and weren't even consulted or voted on this at all, and that's going on all over the world with the same exact players in each and every case.
They basically got them into these onerous, toxic swap deals that were poorly understood by the local politicians, and they bribed the local politicians to accept the swap deals. They did it through middleman companies that bribed,
the consultant on the deal was in jail. The former mayor was involved in other improprieties too, but the former mayor is in prison.
Right. So what we see here is kind of a microcosm of what's happening on the global scale. You've got these banking oligarchs. They've infiltrated countries. They've infiltrated economies. They load up folks with incredible amount of debt, and this causes a chain reaction where, at the end of the day, the bankers end up collecting usurious amounts of interest and completely disenfranchising all the local folks who end up basically as debt slaves.
A more exact parallel is what happened in Milan, Italy. They were also using interest rate swaps very similar to Jefferson County, and there are hundreds of communities across Europe that are in the same situation.
Okay, so that was Matt Taibbi talking about Jefferson County, Alabama, which was another bankruptcy facilitated by interest rate swaps, and it was in the billions. And Jefferson County is the city of Birmingham, Alabama, which again, by the way, and you'll see that pattern too, is a relatively African American populated city. So is Stockton, California. So is Atlanta. They're all being and that eventually it'll be any city. It won't matter. But in the beginning, they're going to try to do it with African American majority cities to get people to get the African Americans angry at the white people and vice versa, and get the white people thinking, oh, this is just an African American thing, so they'll go back to sleep and won't pay any attention to it, and then this is all deliberate and planned and a way for the and this is a takeover, and this is how it's going down, just like JFK and Eisenhower both warned us many years ago, and which of course nobody's paying attention to this day. Keep it going.
We feel that the bankers and the creditors who are here today with the emergency manager are not going to negotiate in the best interests of the people of the city of Detroit, and we're saying that the same financial institutions that Mr. Orr is negotiating with today are responsible in large part for the crisis that exists in Detroit.
They did things with interest rate swaps similar to what we saw in Greece. And the resulting problem was basically eventually the debt swelled to the point where it exploded, and now the county is basically going to be bust for a generation.
The murder of Detroit, the dumping of pension obligations, the gutting of the public sector, and eliminating obligations to shareholders for the sake of paying off creditors is the Dodd-Frank template.
Right, so that was when Dodd-Frank was an act implemented by our illustrious puppet bought and paid for legislators, and the Dodd-Frank template basically lays out the technique to bankrupt our cities and steal people's pensions and whatnot with these interest rate swap derivatives and other financial tools that are used to steal people's pensions and savings. The little people's, well, all people's pensions and savings.
The murder of Detroit, the dumping of pension obligations, the gutting.
But there are communities all over America that are starting to see these interest rate swap deals blow up. The Pennsylvania school system, Detroit, the city of Detroit, Los Angeles, Oakland, Chicago, they're everywhere. And so we're going to start seeing what happened in Jefferson County occur in counties all over the country.
I think there was a little bit of a prophetic statement from Matt Taibbi before. He said that you're going to see that happen in Detroit, and sure enough, yes, it did. And Jefferson County was prior to Detroit's bankruptcy, and so was Stockton, California. Those are the two last biggest bankruptcies that we've had in this nation. Very similar all around. Keep it going.
The reason our banking system is collapsing, it's because they've built up hundreds of trillions of dollars of obligations in derivatives. In the case of Detroit, the city had to borrow money in 2005. And in order to borrow money from a bank to finance bonds, they had to buy insurance policy from that bank. They were sold these interest rate swaps and told that this would make sure that if the rates changed, they would be covered. The banks that sold them the swaps then, through LIBOR, rigged the rates so that the city had to pay more. Now, this is not democracy. The people of Detroit have no say in this. This is a financial manager appointed by the governor who has total power over the budget.
Bribery, theft, fraud, bid rigging, price fixing, gambling, loan sharking, all of these things, it's all organized. I mean, the story I just wrote about, which was about the systematic rigging of municipal bond auctions, which affected every community in every state in the country, and all the major banks were involved, including Chase. They were rigging the auctions that were designed to create a fair rate of return on the investments that towns were getting on the money they borrowed at from municipal bonds.
Rigging it, all deliberate. Again, that's the word, deliberate, intentional. Okay, and outright nefarious and planned, if you will.
When you're looking for fraud in these markets, it's staring you right in the face.
Moody's is concerned because a number of Detroit's bond agreements have clauses written in that would force the city to come up with hundreds of millions of dollars immediately if an emergency manager is appointed.
Since they have been struggling for so long, they have a number of bond agreements that cause acceleration in some of the debts if an emergency financial manager is appointed. As a consequence, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that will cause the city of Detroit to continue to hemorrhage even more cash because of the accelerated payments that would be due on some of these same bonds.
Right, and they that was written into bond deals where obviously the representatives of the people of Detroit and of the nation did not catch in that bond agreement. So now they're going to all they have to do is appoint a puppet governor like this guy Snyder, who's going to implement that in the bond agreement it says if we appoint an unelected administrator like they did, Kevin Orr, then we're going to trigger payments which you'll never be able to pay, which will trigger other other things that okay, now we're going to have to not pay pensions as well as privatize your public utilities and things of that sort. That I'm going to get into as we go. Keep it rolling.
Right, and the rigging of interest rates to fuel fraud, as in this municipal bond rigging, or in Barclays' business model, or J.P. Morgan's business model, has given way to institutionalized rigging of interest rates in programs called quantitative easing. That's all quantitative easing is. It's a central bank manipulating interest rates lower. They're putting forth the idea that this is what's required to get the economy started, and yet there's no evidence, either today or historically, that those actions would ever stimulate an economy.
Absolutely.
If a U.S. company calls up J.P. Morgan and says, make me a bid on an interest rate swap, and we can't give them the best deal, and they're going to get the best deal out of Deutsche Bank in Europe, that's where they're going to go.
All right, that's Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan and testifying in front of Congress, talking about interest rate swaps with Deutsche Bank, trying to make it sound like, we had to do these interest rate swaps because they were going to do them with Deutsche Bank anyway. That's why we have $90 trillion, check it yourself with a T, $90 trillion in interest rate swaps on their book, in just J.P. Morgan alone. $90 trillion. That's hundreds of times more than their market cap. Keep it going. Trillion to a million, if you will, folks.
Well, now, this isn't traffic. This is bunco.
I know.
What's bunco? It means schemes to defraud people, taking money under false pretenses.
What's happened is that an agreement was made by an emergency financial manager who's basically got dictatorial powers to take whatever liquidity there is in Detroit and give it to the banks on these credit default swap risk management agreements that the banks forced the city to buy that are now taking up $225 million of the Detroit revenue, which is 15% of their revenue, and they're defaulting on pension bonds. And this is a model. Chicago's next, Omaha, Oakland, there's a whole list of cities. This is the Greek policy of the IMF and the European Union brought to the United States, backed by the president and backed by Wall Street.
That's right, and it's Cyprus. It's the model we've seen. It's the model that's coming here. We've been warning people for a long time. Our austerity is coming to the United States, and now we know how it's going to be done. And Detroit is the case study.
Oh, wow, so you can really give me a loan?
I sure can. You see, Mr. Griffin, what sets us apart from other banks is that other banks are banks. Now, I trust you have collateral.
I got 3 kids.
I'll take them. Just kidding. Or maybe I'm not. Sign this.
More and more states are struggling to keep their pension promises as the ripple effects of recession erode their revenues. A new study painted a stark picture today of just how big the budget hole has become.
Yeah, more and more states can't pay pensions because and these are not because of the recession. This is because of fraudulent financial dealings that are all intentional and well thought conceived for sure.
My government will bring forward legislation to create a simpler state pension system.
Her government.
Slaves are wealth, Commander.
The more slaves we have, the more bricks we make.
The amazing thing about this is that if you're not part of the banking mafia, you can't get any credit, and there's a recession/depression on. Or if you live in Greece and you live there, you can't get any credit, there's a depression on. But the bankers who are taking over your country, doing a leverage buyout of you, stealing all your assets, they've got an infinite line of credit at 0% interest rates. They've got no problem obtaining credit, using your life as their collateral for their cheap loans. What kind of insanity is that?
Using your life as collateral. Okay, and that's how it goes, because the governments are pledging, my people will pay for it. They got you. Okay?
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
There you go.
We need global governance, global financial governance, and we need it fast.
We have the left versus the right, sort of embodied today in the Republican Party supposedly on the right and the Democrat Party supposedly on the left. Now, here's a choice, isn't there? Well, why is it, if this is such a choice, that we go from Republicans to Democrats, and then 4 years or 8 years later we go back to Republicans again, and we keep doing this? We've been doing this since World War I. How come the country keeps moving in the same direction all the time, deeper and deeper and deeper into collectivism?
There you go. It's it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. No, they're all working towards the same goal. It's so obvious, too.
Let my people go. The slaves are mine. Their lives are mine. All that they own is mine.
Yes, the slaves that's the Pharaoh, by the way, from, and I played that in my Egypt show from the Ten Commandments. He's like, the slaves are mine, everything they own is mine. Pharaoh, I would relate to the Queen. It's very similar who our President Barack Obama is bowing to. And as I said before many times, it doesn't matter who's the president. They're all going to do the same thing. But that one was kind of in your face, if I say so, if I don't say so myself. So now, so we've had financial destruction and steal and the theft of people's pensions and things like that. But now we're going to go into another segment of the show relevant to Detroit and many major American cities as well, where there is a outright system in place to privatize all the water all the water that people have access to. Okay, they're going to privatize water and frankly, farm out the privatization of these water supplies to foreign companies, if you will, who obviously and let's face it, folks, the water is a public asset that always should be public. And I'm going to get into that. So I'm going to show you how what's going on right in front of your face about the privatization of water supplies, not just in Detroit but all over the world, and it's the same exact plan done by the same people and who are doing the same, who are robbing people financially and at the same time power grabbing by controlling their food, their water, and their energy, which is basically total full spectrum dominance. Keep it going.
Detroit tap water.
Right, so, and you're gonna make a joke about how Detroit tap water is no good. Again, again, it's all over the place. That was from another TV show. That was from a cartoon on TV that you see all the time. Let's keep it going.
So what's happening now is that we are losing our rights over our private property, over our water, over our land. You're finding people in the rural areas are being moved out of the rural areas into the cities. And the cities are being replanned to have high-density urban development.
The political struggle that's going on right now is huge. It's the privatization of water by giant multinational corporations. Their agenda is to own what really should be a public resource. And they're being quite effective, particularly in the UK, but now increasingly throughout the world. And I think this is a very terrifying phenomenon. It's been shown in almost every case they take over the control of water, they increase the prices and usually decrease the service. So it's a way of skimming off the public, a resource that the public paid for in the first place.
And outright controlling the slaves as well. This is very, and he said, what did he say? He said terrifying. This is very serious stuff, and I think people should pay some attention to this and some mind to this, because this is going on in every city in America, as well as every major city throughout the world. And it's all being run out of the same fucking criminal groups who are trying to take control, like I said, and turn this world into a totalitarian, unelected dictatorship run by those same people, the banking cabal, and the out of the Queen of England and the Rockefeller foundations like the CFR and the Trilateral Commissions and what have you. Keep it going.
And let me address one of the issues you mentioned before, and that was privatization of public assets. You need to understand that is theft of the commons. That is theft of assets that are owned by the people. And it's something that they trot out every now and then. The very wealthy want to gain control of the railway system or the highway system or the utility system that the public has already bought and paid for. And that's just a naked transfer of wealth right there from the public to the private sector. And I cannot support that because it is nothing short of theft.
We're seeing these are enormously wealthy people who are not satisfied with just personal wealth. They want to control all assets and all natural resources. So we're talking about land, we're talking about oil and gas, timber, water is a very vital part of this. Controlling all water and owning all of those resources. So things that are now owned by your government, that are controlled by your local government, are going to be privatized.
Happening right before our eyes, and Detroit is a very good example of that. And I'm going to show you that it's going on throughout America as we speak, and throughout the world as we speak.
My government will continue with legislation to update energy infrastructure and to improve the water industry.
Oh, thank you, my government, my queen. Thank you, my queen, your majesty.
The rapid and growing exploitation of the world's supply of energy and water is a matter of deep concern.
Okay, David Rockefeller is very deeply concerned about your supply of water and energy. Okay, again, it's right in front of your face, right in front of your face.
So what happened? In 1992, water supply in Buenos Aires was privatized. This was part of a broader set of water privatization reforms across the country, which was itself part of broader economic reforms in Argentina at that time. In Buenos Aires, there was a concession with a group of foreign firms, and with the city, there was a 30-year contract that...
Okay, there you go. Privatized in Buenos Aires and throughout Argentina.
It reminds me of what happened in Cochabamba, Bolivia, when basically the Bechtel came in and decided to take control of their water and charge people for their own water, and pretty soon it started to escalate so that people's almost 50 to 60% of their monthly income went to just water. And America has seen this happen in foreign countries. American bankers have done this as part of this American empire, this stealth empire around the world. This is the type of thing they do in other countries. But now they're doing it right in their own country. So, and this is spreading, right? It's happening in municipalities all over America.
Sure is, and I mentioned that in my show about Egypt. They're privatizing. They're talking about privatizing the water in Egypt. They're talking about privatizing the water in Greece. They're talking about privatizing the water they've already done it in these places. I'm not up to date on exactly which places it's been done in, but it's everywhere. If you just Google water privatization, you'll see extensive information about this. Just this. Keep it going.
Orr said the city would stop payments on its unsecured debt to bondholders, cut health care and pension benefits to current and retired city workers, give an independent authority control over the water and sewerage.
Okay, so Kevin Orr, who's the unelected technocrat in charge of the budget of Detroit is, and unlike not unlike many other cities in Michigan, as well as cities and as well as the appointment of unelected technocrats in Jefferson County and in Stockton, California, and in and all over our country as well as all over the world again. And he said that he will stop payments on pensions and give out the control of their water department to a regional authority, whatever the fuck that means.
Or said the city would stop payments on its unsecured debt to bondholders, cut health care and pension benefits to current and retired city workers, give an independent authority control over the water and sewerage.
Independent authority means private, okay? Independent. There you go.
Atlanta was one of the biggest scandals. The mayor who brought in the privatization was indicted. There were charges that he went to Paris on an all-expenses-paid trip with his mistress, paid for by the water company, and then signed off on massive increases in money going to the water company in Atlanta.
Okay, well, Atlanta privatized water, and again, for whatever it's worth, a relatively high African-American inhabitants of that city. Again, that's just the beginning. If you think that that's like it's only meant for black areas, you're kidding yourself. But that's where they're going to start it with, just to get people to fight with each other along the way. Stockton, California.
In late 2003, despite concerted efforts by a wide coalition of groups, the Stockton City Council voted in favor of a $600 million 20-year water privatization agreement. The deal gave a multinational consortium made up of the Colorado-based OMI and the London-based Thames Water full control over Stockton's water, sewage, and stormwater systems.
Okay, that's an international consortium, full control over their water supply. Okay, isn't that just beautiful? Isn't that just beautiful?
And you use the word bribe, and you emphasize it, bribe, and you use it 3 or 4 times in the same sentence, bribe, bribe, bribe. And you're talking about J.P. Morgan, and they're engaged in obviously fraudulent activity and bribing of local officials.
Water and sewer, for instance. It enjoys a higher bond rating than the city, operates on its own, has net positive cash flow, and provides services in a relatively good level. But, you know, if you look at it, if you're able to do a structure where either through regional authority or privatization, it flowed cash positive to the city, $50 million with a 10% cap rate is $500 million. Right. Don't you sort of have to look at that?
That's Kevin Orr, the unelected technocrat in charge of anything he feels like within Detroit's budget, and he's talking about, don't you have to look at privatizing or handing over their water department to a regional authority, whatever the fuck that means. So it's going to be either privatized or regionalized or both, or there'll be a regional private entity running not just that water supply but all of it. Okay, and most likely, well, according to what all the signs point to, is that it's going to be a foreign entity, a foreign quote unquote consortium that will be this stuff will be and called the Thames Water Authority out of London, if you will. Isn't that nice? Okay, so the Queen, Her Majesty will run all water supply, and isn't that just dandy? Okay, isn't that just dandy? Now, and so who's in the water business over here? How about Siemens? We heard them. I mentioned them in there, and in their which is a German international conglomerate, but a German-based company that Obama said in his State of the Union speech that he's thrilled about Siemens coming over here and helping us out with everything. So and who's in the water business in America? That would be Siemens. Isn't that interesting?
You can get by on a couple of string beans and a half a piece of bread. You can't get by without water.
That was from a Siemens promotional video, out twisted with, you can have a couple of string beans and some bread, but and we'll run your water for you. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, and that's Siemens. They're in the water treatment business. which they'll tell you, okay, so now how that works is that the EPA, which is a federal agency, which is, of course, run by federal politicians who are puppet and controlled by the CFR, as you heard in the earlier segments, and so they are going to. So what happens is the EPA comes to your city or town or state and says, look, we have a violation of your water, or it's antiquated, or whatever they say, and then now you're gonna have to upgrade this, okay, folks? So now we're gonna say, okay, so now you're gonna have to go borrow money, okay, or issue bonds like muni bonds, which are being manipulated, and which you've already heard through interest rate swaps and rigging, bid rigging, okay, and bond rigging, auction rigging. Then they're going to say, okay, you know what? I'll bring in my friend from Siemens, okay, who is not an American company, he's an international Nazi. Okay, and I will tell you that like I showed you in my State of the Union show, which you can go check, where Siemens is directly connected to Nazi Germany, Nazi sympathizers back in the World War II days, and so now we're going to force you through the EPA to take on Siemens and they're going to tell you in this Siemens promo about, well, we're going to help you in your compliance with who? With the EPA, okay? Who is again just who is being sent out there to facilitate all these fraudulent dealings, okay? And that's how. So you see how the system's working. There you go. And you'll believe me. Here's Siemens promo. This is from a promo video. You can check it yourself.
I'm very proud of what I do.
Just search Siemens water treatment, and you'll see these promos by Siemens, the company themselves, where they're going to tell you about compliance and about how we're going to help you with compliance. And even though we're an international, we're certainly not an American company, and we are famously, if you search that, just search up Siemens and Nazi Germany, and you'll see that they're very closely dovetailed into the Nazi machine, okay? And now they're here, and now our president in his State of the Union address is going to talk up Siemens like he mentioned two companies that both aren't American, okay? In that State of the Union, one of them was Siemens. And he's going to tell you, we're loving Siemens. I'm going to play you that clip too. Let's keep it going.
I'm very proud of what I do. There's got to be somebody that's concerned and that's going to help protect the bay and make sure that everything's in compliance.
Within the 25-mile radius, Siemens has 4 or 5 other enhanced nutrient removal orbital systems.
Okay, that's in the Chesapeake Bay. I guess that's in Maryland and Delaware or whatever. Don't check me on that. I think it's Chesapeake is Maryland, but and then Siemens is running that out of there, and they're like, oh yeah, we want it to be in compliance, okay, with that. I'll play that one again, then I'm going to play Obama talking about Siemens.
I'm very proud of what I do. There's got to be somebody that's concerned and that's going to help protect the bay and make sure that everything's in compliance.
Within the 25-mile radius, Siemens has 4 or 5 other enhanced nutrient removal orbital systems.
America's energy sector is just one part of an aging infrastructure badly in need of repair. The CEO of Siemens America, a company that brought hundreds of new jobs to North Carolina, said that if we upgrade our infrastructure, they'll bring even more jobs. And that's the attitude of a lot of companies all around the world.
Yeah, lots of all kinds of companies around the world are going to let them run our water supply. That'd be great. Thanks, trader.
Regulators are warning the states that enforcement may be coming. In fact, it may be imminent. Water treatment in the global picture, where there's very little water and every drop counts, is crucial.
Okay, water treatment, that's from the Siemens promo too. They're like regulators that tell you that compliance and regulation is coming. They're warning you of that, and she's like, water treatment's crucial, and that was from a Siemens promo video. okay? And and Obama's telling you, yeah, we're inviting Siemens. They're going to give us jobs, enslaving the American people to a criminal Nazi multinational conglomerate water treatment company. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, yeah. America, fuck yeah, we're doing great over here. Let me tell you something. Isn't this beautiful right in your fucking face?
The access to water is also a fundamental human right, so it should not be subject to a company's economic interest, which means that if it is not of economic interest to one company to provide water to a poor community, for example, then they won't provide it.
And that's just a tidbit of the trouble that privatizing and giving your water supply to a foreign transnational criminal company, Nazi company. I mean, that's but here we go. Oh, now this is okay. So now this is there's a woman who's telling you that they've already there is a plan to lease the Detroit Water Department again, to lease it to a Nestle, or which is a Swiss company, or Siemens, like again, here we go.
There is a plan that has been proposed that would have the city lease the water and sewer department to a regional authority, and then have the water and sewer department pay the city general fund $50 million a year in payment in lieu of taxes.
Oh, really? Oh, that would be great. So yeah, and that $50 million can go to banks that rig interest rate swap and bond auctions to rob you too. So yeah, we'll just give them. So we'll lease it to a foreign company, and then we'll take the money from the lease and give it to the banks. And so everybody. So what do you get? What does your stupid slave ass get? Nada, nothing. Stuckungats, whatever is that Italian? Anyway, you ain't getting nothing. This is all. Look at, so there you go. There's the full circle plan to rob every single, and then we're going to say, oh, so we're going to take that money from your water department, and we're not going to give it to your pensions. We're going to give it to the banks who set up fraudulent interest rate swap and bond deals with you. Isn't that beautiful? And then we're going to give it to a regional authority.
There is a plan that has been proposed that would have the city lease the water and sewer department to a regional authority, and then have the water and sewer department pay the city general fund $50 million a year in payment in lieu of taxes.
Beautiful.
You've got your local regions within your states, and sometimes breaking the borders, and then you've got 11 mega regions in the United States. You thought you had 50 states, but no, you don't. Now you have 11 mega regions, and you can go to America2050.org if you want to check that out.
I mean, even before they've installed an emergency manager, there's already a plan afoot to try and take Detroit's water department. And this has been a big deal. They're creating a situation wherein you're supposed to think that the water department is not self-sustaining, but it is. There's no reason for these folks to come in and try and spin off Detroit's water department into some kind of regional authority, other than the fact that these people who are running out of new markets that they can exploit want to be able to come in and exploit municipal assets. I mean, that's what a lot of this, if you ask me, is really all about.
Well said.
How do the recent federal corruption charges against former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick and former Water Department Director Victor Mercado affect this situation?
On the one hand, they provide more fodder and more justification for these folks who are seeking regionalization.
I'm prepared to approve this contract tonight ahead of the so-called vote of the people.
There you go. That was from the documentary, PBS documentary called Thirst, where they have city officials telling you to your face, "I'm prepared to before the vote to approve this thing, approve the sale of your water supply before the vote." Okay, that was one city council member.
I'm prepared to approve this contract tonight ahead of the so-called vote of the people.
Oh, isn't that nice?
It is clear that the decision to privatize has been made covertly without a public vote.
Do I believe that this should go to a vote of the people? Absolutely not.
There's another city official. Yeah, no, he's like, thanks, buddy. Yeah, he's a city council member. That was from Stockton, California. But he's like, do I think that the people should vote on it? He goes, no. Like whoever you are, whoever he is, I don't know. But that's how that works. Okay, keep it going.
And one of the things that we found in the movie and in our book Thirst was that you have a constant drumbeat by these companies to undermine democratic input in order to be able to take control of water supplies.
There you go. And now here's Nestle, which is one of the largest food companies in the world. I think it's a Swiss company, and they're going to they're moving in making a strong move to take over the water supply of the whole state of Michigan. Here we go.
Nestle then moved into the state of Michigan, where the Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation has been fighting against their taking water out of aquifers and streams in Michigan, and they just had a Supreme Court decision in the state of Michigan which was denying citizens groups the right to intervene on certain environmental issues. Again, Nestle trying to intervene against the possibility of people taking a direct role in the future of their water.
And Nestle, which owns, among other water brands, Poland Springs, Arrowhead, Deer Park.
Ice Mountain.
There you go. Isn't that beautiful? And then here's this jerk-off governor of Michigan. Listen to what he says. I don't know what kind of double speak that's supposed to be, but hear what he says.
People will get what I would describe as regular service. I wouldn't call it normal service.
It's regular, not normal. Go to whatever. Don't ask me what that means. I'm not sure. But yeah, you'll get regular service. I wouldn't call it normal. I'd just call it regular, whatever that means.
What kind of government you guys got here? This is worse than California.
Go and keep it going.
These emergency managers, by the way, are appointed almost exclusively for cities that are a majority of their population is African American. So there's an enormous racial angle to all of this. And when these emergency managers are appointed, the people, for example, of Detroit now have absolutely no democratic rights at the city level. They cannot vote the manager out of office. They cannot vote to block any of his actions. They cannot vote to, for example, say, let's all get together and clean up the streets in conjunction with the police department and the fire department. All of those democratic powers have been removed from the city of Detroit and about 15 other cities in Michigan that are overwhelmingly majority African American populations.
And that's not just Michigan, that's all over the country and, frankly, all over the world, again, because, again, it seems like they're starting with the less, I don't know what to describe it, but the Cypresses and the Greeks and the Egyptians and they're just like they're trying to stoke conflict between the peoples of the world rather than anybody focusing on what's really going on, which is a total takeover, whether you're black or white or whatever. Okay, here's friggin' jerk-off Bill O'Reilly talking about how, you know what he thinks? He thinks Detroit should be put under martial law. He thinks that would be better. Isn't that, yeah, you know, so forget about democracy. Now we're going into, like, now he's going to suggest martial law because how dangerous Detroit is now and everything like that. So and that'll get people like, yeah, I think you're right. I think we should have martial law. It's dangerous over there now.
They made a lot of promises for pensions and benefits for all the public sector employees. They're going to tear up those contracts, and that's the only way they're going to get back on their feet.
I got to say, Detroit is an American iconic city, but it's through.
Yeah, well,
you'd have to put it under martial law, and you'd have to, suspend all kinds of these crazy laws they have, and then bring in people just to oversee it, and then try to get it back on its feet.
Right.
Like the military, you'd have to do what the Marshall Plan did in Europe after World War II, because they ain't coming back by civilians.
He goes, suspend all laws and bring in some people to run it. Isn't that? Thanks, O'Reilly. Isn't that a hell of a suggestion? Yeah, let's just suspend the laws, bring in the military, and run Detroit. You know, they're through anyway, and they don't need a commodity. Let's forego that. That was from fucking Fox News Detroit. Bill O'Reilly himself. Okay, and believe me, like I showed you earlier, where the call for no elections is they're calling it a liberal democracy. That's a liberal democratic ideology now. So it's nothing to do with right or left again. It has to do with they're both calling for that. Both sides are calling for that, or both supposed sides are calling for that. And when actually, because I believe that there is no two sides. It's all the same. They're all working in the same direction. They're all working towards this totalitarian collectivism, and that's obvious as obvious can be. Also, it's right in your friggin' face. Let's keep it going. So now we're very dangerous in Detroit. We're going to need to put martial law, and we're going to need the police state move in even further, because I think that's the best idea for them.
My house got shut up 37 times. We didn't report it because they don't do nothing about it.
Yeah, right. We 37 times your house got shot up. You see that, and that's just stupid propaganda. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. That's propaganda just to make you invite the police state. There we go. Keep it going. Screwed up my little thing here. Keep it going.
How you doing, man? You look good. You became a cop. Nice badge.
Oh, no. I'm not a peace officer. No. This badge isn't a meaningful symbol or anything. It's just a badge of my company. You know, we don't enforce the law. We just execute company policy for homeowners.
Oh, I get it. Cool. Yeah. Cool. You mind talking a little shop?
Sure.
When are you authorized to use deadly force?
Oh, well, of course, taxes provide your basic service, police and whatnot, but our customers need a little bit more than that, so if we find you on the property, we do what we have to do.
So, if I just look suspicious on your customer's property under those, heightened circumstances, you have the authority to shoot me?
Correct.
Wow. All right. How'd you get the gig?
Oh, they were hiring. It was only a 2-week course.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that made it easy. You look good.
Yeah, thanks.
And we have also established the fact, I think, that the governments are concerned about the response of people, and in the United States, it looks like that they're acting far in advance of any signs among the population of any kind of resistance.
Sure.
So you're right. We now have no civil liberties. It's up to the president whether we have them or don't have them as individuals. Apparently, the Department of Homeland Security has shifted its attention away from so-called terrorism toward domestic extremists, which appears to be essentially those who disagree with the government. And we see the militarization of Homeland Security, of all the local and state police forces. We see constant invasions of privacy, all kinds of spying that's strictly against the Constitution, and it continues and it deepens. We also have these reports of the detainment centers or camps built around the country with congressional appropriations. So clearly they are acting to be in a position to control the population in the event that there's some sort of economic or social breakdown in the United States.
That's coming to your doorstep every day. I sit here in New York City and look out the window or walk down the street and I see it all. All kinds of police state, military, and we're doing it for your safety. We're protecting you, and this is all because they foresee. It's obvious they see this breakdown coming. It's coming right before our eyes as we speak, and it's coming to a town and city near you, and it's already there. It's going and it's advancing.
Hey, what are you doing?
This your bike?
Yes.
It's on the impound list. You owe the county for tickets.
The Dude, I need my bike to do my job.
Yeah, well, my job is to tow this bike. You want it back, you talk to the county.
No, do not tow my bike. Stop, asshole!
Yes, you're living in a police state. Your government is evil.
Detroit, the most dangerous city in the USA, where even the drug dealers find it hard to earn a living.
Surviving is the only thing that comes from selling drugs. I don't see a benefit in it anymore.
As Detroit's population shrinks, competition among drug dealers is fierce.
Well, one time it was a working class town, as everybody knows, because of the auto industry, and then the unions came in, and then the Democratic machine came in, then the drugs came in, and the drugs really wiped out the minority community, working class community. The crime went through the roof.
Can't solve the problems because their problems are cultural. Dangerous herds of feral dogs roam in there. You have 3% of fourth graders reading at the national math standards. 47% of Detroit residents are functionally illiterate. 79% of Detroit children are born to unmarried mothers. They don't have a fiscal problem, Steve. They have a cultural collapse.
There's some very disturbingly racist garbage from George Will, who's talking about dangerous herds of feral dogs. First of all, dogs run in packs, not herds. But besides that, that's a personification again of what he's going to he's going to put in your little head about how, you know, just to give you that oh, it's dangerous because there's unculturally collapsed black people in Detroit that need to and then O'Reilly's like, well, that's, you know, we're just gonna have to bring in the military to and suspend laws, quote unquote. Keep it going.
Detroit's street dealers are suffering financially, but the personal risk they face remains the same.
There's only two ways out of selling drugs: going to jail or getting killed.
There's some more scare tactics and like how Detroit street dealers are suffering now. Whatever.
You know how many abandoned buildings we have in Detroit? I mean, how you supposed to take pride in your neighborhood with shit like that next door? And does the city tear them down? No, they too busy building casinos and taking money from the people.
Shut your preaching ass up. Nobody care about that shit.
There's from the Eminem movie 8 Mile where they're trying to again, because loads of people, kids love that movie, and they're going to try to, you know, nobody gives a shit about that, man. You know, like just to, so that's, now it's cool to not give a shit. Okay, and that's all, again, propaganda and subliminal suggestion and manipulation and whatnot. Keep it going.
Our top story tonight: in a shocking turn of events, the city of Detroit has officially given up. The now former mayor has given the key to the city back to the Huron Indian tribe. So farewell, Detroit. From Bob Seger to Axel Foley, we never really cared.
Got all these hair dryers at a polar ice cap in the Arctic Ocean. I've got extension cords leading from the hair dryers to my house in Detroit. Once I plug them in, the cap's gonna melt, causing a tidal wave to head right for the U.S.
You're insane!
Yeah, the tidal wave should come all the way to Detroit. That's what the sand's for. I'm gonna dump all of it on my street and let the water come right up to it. Bam! Beachfront property, y'all!
Okay, another just poking fun at what a hellhole Detroit has become. Again, it has to do with the deliberate deindustrialization of not just Detroit, but, well, Detroit was the iconic symbol of the industrial age and of America's success, and now it's being deindustrialized, and that's being used to propagandize into you just throwing up your hands and giving up, basically. Okay, so I'm coming down the back stretch of this show. It's almost done here, and I'm gonna play a few more clips and start wrapping it up. But so far we went through the financial fraud techniques that are used with interest rate swaps and bond rigging and things like that. Is how they plan to do everybody in America and throughout globally. They're going to blame it on, oh, it's a Republican fault or the Democrats' fault, and I'm trying to show you that that's all nonsense as well. Then we're going to tell what the answer is going to be, the solution or the answer that's going to be given to you is like, oh, we need more police state because we need to control you even more. And then I showed you, which I thought was extremely important, is this water issue which is being used again to control you, and it's being your water is being sold at your public waterworks, okay, which is paid for and by the public, throughout history, are now being sold to private Nazi companies, okay, that aren't even American companies, no less. And that's not just happening here; that's happening all over the world. You saw that in Argentina, in Bolivia, in Egypt, everywhere. Okay, and they've already done it, by the way, in every country in Africa. They just, but they've been taken over a long time ago, and slavery is alive and well throughout Africa, and now the project is on the way to exterminate Africans, so that they can use the giant African continent as a farm for resources, and if you don't believe, and they're using Bill Gates is spearheading the challenge with vaccinating the crap out of everybody, all black people, but and in America they're using it to dumb down and chemically cripple Americans' brain power with vaccines as well. And if you want to argue with me about that, then you're an absolute moron. The evidence is so abundant and so clear. Keep it going. And then here's the good fellow. Here's the gangster technique for how you will liquidate an asset. Here we go, from Goodfellas.
Now the guy's got Paulie as a partner. Any problems, he goes to Paulie. Trouble with the bill, he can go to Paulie. Trouble with the cops, deliveries, Tommy, he can call Paulie. But now the guy's got to come up with Paulie's money every week, no matter what. Business bad? Fuck you, pay me. Oh, you had a fire? Fuck you, pay me. Place got hit by lightning, huh? Fuck you, pay me.
What if I get one of those TVs? Nah, I'll be stuck with them breaking it all right.
Also, Paulie could do anything, especially run up bills on the joint's credit. And why not? Nobody's gonna pay for it anyway. And as soon as the deliveries are made in the front door, you move the stuff out the back and sell it at a discount. You take a $200 case of booze and you sell it for $100. Doesn't matter, it's all profit. And then finally, when there's nothing left,
fucking shame,
and you can't borrow another buck from the bank or buy another case of booze, you bust the joint out. You light a match.
Well, what's happening is that the handful of rich elites around the world are continuing to steal everything from everybody else. And the middle class in every country is disappearing, and the lower class is being pushed lower. And everyone pretends there's some kind of recovery and there's going to be a happy tomorrow and all that sort of thing.
Shut up, slave!
Marge, we're not going to have to worry about money ever again, because I've got a plan. I'd like to declare bankruptcy, please.
Mr. Simpson, do you understand how bankruptcy works?
Yes, I do. Under Chapter 13 of the Fiscal Code, an individual whose debts exceed his assets may file for bankruptcy, thus protecting said assets.
That was the old bankruptcy law.
Huh?
Under the new law, you have to pay your creditors everything.
But I thought bankruptcy was the cool law. The one that says, dude, don't worry about it. I got this.
Mr. Simpson, I'm afraid this court must appoint a financial officer to supervise repayment of your debts.
So these are not democratic outcomes. You know, the West prides itself that it's the standard for the world, that it's a democracy. But nowhere do you see democratic outcomes. Not in Greece, not in Ireland, and not in the UK, not here. The outcomes are always to punish the innocent and reward the guilty.
And I realized that communism and fascism, the so-called opposites, are merely variants of collectivism. They're the same thing. And they believe that the group is more important than the individual, for example, and the individual must be sacrificed, if necessary, for the greater good of the greater number. They believe that the state should be all-powerful and that the people should obey the state for the greater good of the greater number and all of that sort of thing. They believe that rights are granted by the state. They're not part of the human being. They're not God-given. They're not entrenched in his body and soul. They have to be granted by the state. All of these things, and you look at them one by one, communists and fascists and Nazis and socialists, they all believe that. So wherein lies the conflict, you see? And I began to question that. And I realized that it's partly a trick. In fact, I think it's a huge trick. It's a great scam because people even today are thinking that they have to choose between the right or the left, not realizing that no matter which way they go, they've accepted basically the same ideology underneath.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge?
There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
Fascism is mega corporations taking over your government and shutting down their competition, okay? That's what it is. The New World Order is a global fascist banking cartel takeover of the planet.
Shit, they're lying to us!
We've been lied to. We've flat out simply been lied to.
That's called lying to crowds.
They're lying to us.
They're lying to us again, Larry.
Okay, and now I'm at the end of the show, so I'm going to do a quick, brief couple of clips about nonviolent resistance, because I think if you ask me what's the answers, what are the solutions, first of all, I think that people need to see the overall picture. I was just chatting with this guy last night, and he was talking to me. And he's like, I'm into hyper local. He called it activism. In other words, he's going to try to be active in his neighborhood, literally in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Which I told him, I believe there's nothing wrong with being active in any regard. However, I think that that in order to understand how to apply things locally, you need to understand the overall picture. The overall picture is a takeover, and you heard it right in the beginning of the show, but JFK and Eisenhower both told us that there is a very vast and very extraordinarily organized and well-funded conspiracy globally and Eisenhower says it's going to be a fight for your liberty, okay? And same thing as and I believe Thomas Jefferson told us we're always going to be fighting for our liberty and freedom. Freedom is not something that can be went to sleep upon, which is exactly what we've been distracted into steered into doing because of TV and all kinds of very well organized and very well funded propaganda, which is so we've gone to sleep on our freedom and our liberty, and that's why you're getting Siemens buying up our water supply, and that's why we got the Queen of England and Rockefeller and all these unelected criminals telling and worse, telling us, oh yeah, we'll take care of it for you, we'll handle it for you, and Americans and people throughout the world are too busy jerking around with their iPhones and watching TV and believing that garbage that this plan is progressing forward at light speed at this point, and we are going to need to resist at one point, and I don't think it's ever too late, but I think that the people of this world have to open their eyes and see what's going on here. And I'm going to tell you that in that case, rather than be coerced and duped into fighting with each other, or about left-right issues, or about black and white issues, or straight and gay issues, or whatever, we need to all realize that there's a bigger picture, that we're all humanity here, and that we need to non-violently resist this type of this garbage, and that's the only thing that's going to work with these people. Violence is playing into their hands period. I'm going to give you a couple of clips, and I'm going to sign off for you on the Detroit show. Thanks for coming aboard. Here's a couple of clips about nonviolence from very, very brilliant people. Keep it going.
I think it should apply in every situation in the world where individuals seek to break loose from the bondage of colonialism or from some totalitarian regime or from the system which we confront in America.
You truly believe, then, that nonviolence is the sole, the universal answer to injustice and oppression?
Very definitely. Very definitely.
Very definitely. Martin Luther King couldn't agree with him more on that one.
The militant revolutionaries, ask them to show you one revolution that turned out to be what it promised militantly. That's take Russia, France, anywhere they're at it. What they do is they smash the place down, then they build it up again, and the people that build it up hang on to it. And then they become the establishment. Now you guys are going to be the establishment in a few years. It's not worth knocking it down because it's convenient to have the rooms and the machinery. The thing is to protest, but protest non-violently. Because violence begets violence, you know, and if you run around wild, you get smacked, and that's it, you know, that's the laws of the universe. And they've got all the weapons, they've got all the money, and they know how to fight violence because they've been doing it for thousands of years, suppressing us. And the only thing they don't know about is non-violence and humour. And there's many ways of promoting peace. Do everything for peace. Piss for peace, or smile for peace, or go to school for peace, or don't go to school for peace. Whatever you do, just do it for peace. It's up to the people. You can't blame it on the government and say they're doing this, they're going to put us into war. We put them there, and we allow it. You know, and we can change it. If we really want to change it, we can change it.
There you go, and coming these are the last few clips of the show.
What do we do? Like Mohammed, we must wait until the mountain comes to us again.
Interesting how the old Batman uses quoting Muhammad, if you will. Kind of cool and interesting and funny, but here we go.
What do we do? Like Mohammed, we must wait until the mountain comes to us again.
There you go. And okay, so I'm going to sign off for you. This was the Detroit, the deliberate, diabolical destruction and deindustrialization of America. That was the show. I talked to you about the water supply. I talked to you about the financial techniques used with interest rate swaps and bond rigging and things like that, of how it's being done. That's how they're going to steal your pensions and all your savings and all your wealth to in order that they can move you into a desperate world government begging for world government situation, which is very well planned out and orchestrated and with extreme with extraordinarily well funded. Now, does that mean that we should give up? Absolutely, 100% not. The way to beat this thing, the people have the power, the people have the numbers, okay? But rather than get duped into fighting with each other about garbage social issues that, well, of course, social issues are important to people, but that's how they get people, too emotional about things and get people distracted from the real issues, is by getting people to fight with each other about social issues. That's a very obvious and reoccurring technique used to distract, to confuse and distract the sheeple, while these things move forward unabated. Thanks for coming aboard the Max Ratt Deconstruction Zone. I'm Max Ratt. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon. Oh, by the way, actually, my podcast is now on iTunes. You could check it on iTunes and subscribe if you'd like to do it. Also, all my other shows are all on maxrat.com. All the best to you.
If I don't come back, you tell Mother I love her.
Your mother's dead, Llewellyn.
Well, then I'll tell her myself.
Yeah, and this is Max Ratt, over and out.
And you can always follow me on Twitter